Hello, everyone. So I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking a little bit about the cost of achieving the kind of impacts we've just heard the other speakers mentioning. I'll be focusing on some of the technologies like the vinegar screening VIA, and also a little bit about the HPV DNA test, and talk about really answering this question: what would it cost to achieve comprehensive global cervical cancer prevention in the next 10 years? So we're going to look at the financial resource requirements of such a program over the next decade, and this is going to include screening plus vaccination. The reason is that while vaccination is obviously a great solution for girls who are eligible for it, there's still a large cohort of women who cannot benefit from the vaccination and for which screening is obviously imperative. I just thank my project team at Harvard who helped with this, and the American Cancer Society who funded this research. This study is going to look at 102 low and middle income countries across the world, which have approximately 750 million women of screening age, that's age 30 to 49, and 50 million girls of vaccination age each year, meaning a cohort of 50 million girls approximately each year that would be eligible for the vaccination. The colors here show the income levels of the country. There are different income tiers where the red are the poorest countries and the dark green are the wealthiest countries. And the reason for this is that the cost of intervening in these countries is different, and we made some assumptions that the technology used may be different as well. This is just in terms of population distribution. We broke up these 100 countries of the world into 5 categories of income tier. Low-income countries are those with a GNI per capita less than $1,000 per person, going up to upper middle income 2, which would be the wealthiest countries we looked at, which are those with incomes reaching up to about $13,000 per capita. We looked at several screening policy scenarios. I'm going to just focus on one today in the interest of time, our base case scenario. And the way we decided what screening policy would be implemented in each category of country was basically had to do with the cost of the technology. So we assumed here VIA, or the vinegar test, would be used in low income, low middle income 1, and most low middle income 2 countries, and that the HPV DNA test would be used in upper middle income countries, except for there was a set of 10 countries which already do have cytology or pap smear programs fairly scaled up, and for those countries we assumed that they would continue on that course. But they are a relatively small part of the total cost because they're relatively small countries in Latin America. We also assumed that the screening age would be between 30 to 49. This is according to WHO recommendations. And that in this case, we assumed twice in a lifetime screening. Just to get to the main result, so if I lose you later on, you get the big picture. We did look at both vaccination and screening. So vaccination had to do with giving 2 doses of HPV vaccine to all 10-year-old girls in these countries. And there was a 2-tiered pricing scheme where countries that were low and low middle income received the Gavi price, so that's a subsidized price through the Global Alliance for Vaccine Initiative of $4.50 a dose. And the rest of the countries received the PAHO revolving fund price of about $14 a dose. It's important to note that at this point, many middle income countries are struggling to negotiate prices this low. So there needs to be some work done in order to achieve access to the vaccine at this price, okay? We looked at a 10-year linear scale-up, so reaching 10% coverage in the first year, 20% the next year, 30% the next year, up to full coverage after 10 years. And again, as I mentioned, screening was twice per lifetime in the women of screening age. So if we implemented this, over that 10-year period, 250 million would be screened, and 290 million girls would be vaccinated. And the bottom line in terms of costs is that it would be about $1.8 billion, which is actually quite an affordable price tag if you consider the amount spent on other disease-specific health initiatives. And the costs are about evenly split between screening and vaccination. We used a modeling approach that used computer models to simulate the populations of these countries and looked at epidemiological factors in each country and technology-related factors and costs and so forth that were tailored to each country. In particular, we did a literature review on what is known about the costs of delivering cervical cancer screening programs and vaccination programs in order to come up with our cost estimates. To give you a sense of the costs do vary quite a lot from low-income countries up to upper-middle-income countries because of the cost of inputs, particularly the cost of labor. In a low-income country, the cost of delivering vaccine might be as low as $1 a dose, but in upper-middle-income countries, it might be higher than $10 to $15 a dose. As I mentioned, vaccine price is a major driver of these costs. We used a fairly optimistic view that there would be a two-tier pricing scheme in which most of the middle-income countries could access the vaccine at $14 a dose. Obviously, if that's not achieved, the costs are going to be much, much higher for such a program. I was talking about a 10-year scale-up period. Now I want to just give you some statistics about what would happen at full scale, so after the program is scaled up. After the program is scaled up, we're talking about $1.75 billion per year, 90 million women being screened. 13 million of these women would have precancerous lesions treated, primarily with cryotherapy. Overall, the cost per woman is about $20 over their lifetime for screening. That's the expected cost per woman. But it does range from as low as $4.60 in low-income settings to about $50 in the wealthiest middle-income countries. This program could be expected to prevent, perhaps optimistically, about half of cervical cancer cases. I think the trial results that you showed, so that might be a little bit optimistic, but still a major, major impact on the number of cancer cases emerging. And more intensive screening using HPV testing in all middle-income countries and screening more frequently can have additional benefits, no doubt. And so there are options for countries who want to be more aggressive, but it does come with additional costs, of course. In terms of vaccination, at full scale, in these 100 countries, low and middle-income countries, total about $1.5 billion per year, about 50 million girls being vaccinated each year. And again, overall, about $30 per girl vaccinated, ranging from as low as $12 in low-income countries to as high as about $85 in the wealthiest middle-income countries. And this program could be expected to reduce cervical cancer incidence in the vaccinated women by about 70% over their lifetime. It's important to note that we did this analysis to break up by income tier for a reason. About 25% of the vaccination costs and 15% of the screening costs accrue in the two lowest income tiers. Those are the countries with less than $2,600 per capita. So those are the most likely to require external resources. So when we think about mobilizing resources, those would be the focus countries. Less than 20% of the total vaccination costs are for vaccine purchases in Gavi-eligible countries. So what this means is that a lot of this additional cost is going to flow outside of Gavi. Finally, as I mentioned, vaccine pricing is critical here. At full scale, less favorable tiered pricing schemes could add $1 billion a year to the cost. So price negotiation is obviously important. Thank you.